Hi, my name is Sarah Wesh. I'm a licensed psychologist, and ironically, I'm going to talk to you about 10 things you should try before you go to therapy. You would think I'd be wanting to encourage you to come to therapy, but actually, my experience is that a lot of times people come to therapy and really they're just a little out of balance. They've fallen into some bad habits, and once we get those habits corrected, you know what? They don't really need therapy anymore. And so I think it's really useful for you to try these things before you try therapy, just to see if maybe you've just got into some bad habits, and if you reverse those habits, you won't need therapy after all. Okay? One of my goals in life is to be out of a job and be able to do something else. Of course, if you are feeling really suicidal, if you're having something really traumatic happen to you, just go to therapy right away. There's no reason to try anything first. But if you're on the fence and you think you have some space to try some things, try these things first. Okay, number one, change your sleep habits. Okay, the basis of our mental health is in our sleep. When we sleep well, our mental health tends to be so much better. So again, if you feel like you have some influence over your sleep, I would sleep probably a little bit more than you are. I'm guessing. Most people sleep too little as Americans. 120 years ago in 1900, the average American slept 9 hours a night, right? And now our average is much closer to 7. We haven't changed as humans, but life has changed. And I think getting 9 hours of sleep a night, which means 9.5 hours in bed, really helps our mental health. Not everyone needs that much sleep. Men in particular can sometimes get by at like 7.5 hours of sleep, which is 8 hours in bed. But I would experiment with it. And really, what you want to see is that you're able to wake up without your alarm clock, that you're able to get through the whole day without any caffeine or any naps, and that you feel good, sustained energy all day long. And when you're getting the right amount of sleep, that is how you should feel. Okay? You might say to me, well, that's all well and good, but I can't sleep. I can't fall asleep. I can't stay asleep. And certainly that's a big issue we see for people coming into therapy. And it may be that you need treatment for your insomnia. But number two, before you get treatment for your insomnia, try changing some of your other habits. Try changing your substance use. One of the biggest issues I see in people who aren't sleeping well is their caffeine use. People will say, I only have 1 or 2 cups a day. It's in the morning time. There's no way it's impacting my sleep. The truth is that caffeine has an extremely long half-life, so it takes a long time to work out of our system. So even though you're having that caffeine in the first half of the day, you could still have that caffeine bopping around in your body throughout the day, and it could get in the way of sleeping at night. So tapering back onto decaf and eventually eliminating coffee for a while and see if you're sleeping better, right? Other forms of substance use can also have a role in our sleep. Alcohol can make it easier to fall asleep, but then harder to stay asleep. And so looking at your substance use habits and seeing if there's any way that those are contributing to the problem. Number three, exercise, right? Exercise, I think, is pretty well known. It is really good for our mental health. A lot of studies show that it's just as helpful as antidepressant medication. A lot of people will say, though, I don't have any energy to exercise. I'm feeling really depressed. And oh gosh, if I were, God, I can't exercise. I just have no energy at all. Exercise really helps to boost our energy levels, right? So if you're not feeling like you have any energy, just say you're going to go do it for 5 minutes, right? Again, a little bit of exercise is better than nothing. Start small, work your way up. You can boost your energy levels by exercising. Exercise also helps with anxiety, which is too much energy, but exercise can help burn off some of that anxiety and help bring you back down to baseline. So again, if you're not exercising, I encourage you to work your way up to 20 or 30 minutes a day, just a good amount of exercise to kind of prevent mental health problems. I also think, though, Americans can be kind of joyless about exercise. We're like, I'm just going to go like CrossFit and be miserable. You don't have to do that. It doesn't have to be so all or nothing. I would really think about what you enjoyed as a child. Like if you liked biking, I'd get yourself a fun bike. Maybe put those cool sparkly streamers on it and a little bell. Like find a way to make exercise fun for you so that you can enjoy it and you'll actually sustain doing it. Okay. Number four, look at your diet. Okay. No, you don't need to eat a perfect diet in order to have good mental health. But if your diet has been trending towards a lot of processed carbs, a lot of donuts or chocolate or candy, those things can cause inflammation, and those can contribute to our mental health disorders. The other thing that can happen with our diet when we're really depressed or anxious is that our appetite can start to diminish. We can start to feel like we're not hungry. That's definitely a more serious sign of anxiety and depression, maybe a sign that you needed to get into therapy pretty soon. But I think too, if you're not eating enough, our brain is made out of fats, our brain runs on sugar. If we're not eating enough calories, we can feel really depressed. We can feel really tired and low energy. And so it's really important to eat enough calories and to eat a reasonably balanced diet, including lots of whole foods, so that we can feel better and feel our best self. Number 5, be more social. Okay, it's really ironic that in a time in which we have documents that show that we have 1,005 friends on a social media platform, that we are spending less time with people than ever. Okay, it's really important that we plan in-person social things on a regular basis. A lot of people are just spending all their time alone, and that's partially because we're so tired. It can also be because we got into some of those isolating habits during the pandemic, but getting out and being social is really important. And so planning a card night or a book club or going dancing or meeting someone at a coffee shop but maybe drinking decaf. Being social is really good for our mental health. The opposite of being social is really important too. Solitude, quiet. Especially for those of you who are parents, your life is very overstimulating. You might not have a lot of downtime. It's really important that a little bit of time each day is devoted just to being to yourself and being quiet. And that could be taking a warm bath after you put your kids to sleep, or it could be doing some yoga. It could be doing some form of relaxation or meditation. I really like autogenic training, and I can put a link below to some autogenic training that I think is really helpful in just helping us unwind. We tend to go through life constantly in fight or flight mode, and it's really important that we take a little bit of time to be quiet, to be alone, every day, 10-15 minutes at least. Okay. Number 7, spend more time in nature. When we're out in nature, we tend to be more in the moment. Instead of up in our head thinking about tomorrow and what we need to do, when we're out in nature, we tend to be more in our body than in our thoughts. It's really useful for us just to spend a little bit of time. And we can combine that with one of our other needs, like we could spend time alone out in nature, or we could spend time with a friend out in nature, getting exercise. And so I think spending time outside is really helpful. And we're going to combine that with number 8, which is checking your media use. Really encourage you to use a tracker to find out how much time are you spending on TikTok and Facebook and YouTube and Instagram and all of that, and realizing that's time you could spend with something else. You could learn a foreign language. You could paint your house. You could clean your house. You could make new friends. You could start a new hobby. You could do so much with the time that you're spending online. Right? Another form of media use that's really damaging to our mental health is pornography use. For years we didn't really think there was much to that, but there's a lot of research that shows that that's really contributing to depression for people who use it regularly. And so looking at ways of kind of curbing your own media use. You may feel you need the help of a therapist to do that, but you may want to just try it on your own, using apps to block your apps, or just switching from a smartphone back to an old-fashioned basic phone, and seeing if you can spend less time doing that and more time doing the things that really lift your mental health, right? Number 9, do less, say no more, but you also might want to do more. It just depends on who you are. So are you one of those type A people who's constantly saying yes and doing more and accepting more assignments? Then you need to set some boundaries. You need to say no. I like to say probably not when people ask me to do things, because that kind of paves the way for saying no. And it also lets me say yes if I want to, but it gives me a minute to think about it. So I think if you're one of those people who really is overachieving, you need to set some boundaries and try to make your life a little bit more sane. Right? Some people aren't doing enough. I mean, that would be maybe a smaller category of people, but again, not saying yes enough, not volunteering enough, not getting out there and doing things enough. So again, it's trying to figure out where you fall in that continuum. Are you overloading yourself, or maybe you're not putting yourself out there enough, and just trying to figure out what that is. Number 10, I think it's really important to make sure that you're feeding your soul. right? We have needs for things like creativity and expression, and it's really important to figure out if there's things that really you enjoy that you just don't do anymore. And again, it might be good to look back at your childhood and see, like, gosh, I used to love to paint, but I don't paint anymore because now I'm a grown up and I'm too serious for that. Painting, writing, music, finding something creative to do with your time. Again, it's a much better use than sitting and scrolling on our phones. I think trying all of these things, trying all 10 of these things, and seeing how you feel after a month. You can also make an appointment for therapy, and while you're waiting for your appointment, try some of these things and see if you can get yourself feeling better. Again, if you have really bad panic attacks, if you're having suicidal thoughts, if you are having extremely severe insomnia, just go ahead and try to get into therapy right away. But again, it is going to probably take a few weeks to get your appointment. And so again, try some of these things and see if you can get yourself back on track a bit. Okay? Feel free to comment with any questions or disputes or whatever disagreements you have in the comments, and any ideas or questions you have for future videos. Okay? Take care.